There is someone your mind keeps returning to, not because they treat you well, not because the relationship is easy, but because something in you refuses to let go. You tell yourself this time will be different. You promise you will stop thinking about them. And yet somehow, without planning it, you find yourself choosing them again, texting again, remembering again, hoping again. It feels almost automatic, like your brain made the decision before you did. So the real question is not, why do you keep going back? The real question is, why does your brain keep choosing the same person even when a part of you already knows it hurts? And the answer begins somewhere deeper than emotions. It begins inside the way your brain learned love. On the surface, it looks simple. You met someone, you felt something strong, but over time, the relationship became confusing. Some days they feel close, other days they feel distant. Sometimes they give attention that feels almost perfect. Then suddenly they disappear emotionally. And strangely, those moments of distance do not push you away. They pull you closer. Your mind starts replaying conversations. You analyze every message, every tone shift, every moment of silence. Your thoughts begin to orbit around them, not because the relationship is stable, but because it is unpredictable. And unpredictability is something the human brain finds very hard to ignore. In psychology, this pattern is often connected to intermittent reinforcement. It is the same learning principle that keeps people pulling slot machines in casinos. When rewards arrive randomly, the brain becomes more addicted to the possibility, not the reward itself, but the maybe. And when a relationship becomes a cycle of attention to distance to attention again, your brain starts chasing the next moment of connection, even if logic says it is not healthy. But that still leaves a deeper question. Why does your brain attach so strongly to this specific person? Why them? Most people think this means something is wrong with them. They say things like, I must be weak. I must have low self-respect. I don't understand why I keep doing this. But the brain rarely repeats patterns without a reason. What looks like emotional weakness is often something else. It is the nervous system recognizing something familiar, not necessarily healthy, just familiar. Your brain is not trying to sabotage you. It is trying to return to patterns it already understands. In personality psychology, humans tend to recreate emotional environments that resemble their early experiences of connection, not consciously, but neurologically. Because the brain prefers predictable emotional maps, even if those maps contain stress. In other words, your brain may not be choosing the person, it may be choosing the pattern, and that pattern may have existed long before you met them. But to understand this fully, you have to look at how the brain actually stores emotional relationships. Your brain does not store love as a memory, it stores it as a prediction system. Deep inside the brain, areas like the amygdala and hippocampus track emotional experiences and build models of what relationships usually feel like. Think of it like a map. If early relationships contained unpredictability, emotional distance, or inconsistency, the brain quietly records that as part of the map of intimacy. So later in life, when you meet someone who creates a similar emotional rhythm, your brain recognizes the pattern, not consciously, but biologically. It feels strangely intense, sometimes even magnetic. Because the brain is not just experiencing the present, it is activating old emotional circuitry. A helpful mental model is this. Imagine your brain like a music recognition app. When a new song plays that sounds similar to something you heard years ago, the app instantly identifies the pattern. Relationships can work the same way. Your brain hears a familiar emotional melody, and it locks onto it. This is why some connections feel immediately powerful, not because they are healthy, but because they are neurologically recognizable. And once the brain detects this familiarity, another system becomes involved, the dopamine system. Dopamine is often misunderstood as the pleasure chemical, but neuroscientists describe it differently. Dopamine is actually the chemical of anticipation. It spikes when the brain expects a reward, and when a person sometimes gives affection and sometimes withdraws it. The dopamine system becomes highly activated. You start craving the next moment of connection, not because you are irrational, but because your brain has entered a reward prediction loop. Which is why logic alone rarely breaks the cycle, but understanding the mechanism gives you something powerful. It gives you a way to interrupt the pattern. Breaking this pattern is not about forcing yourself to move on. It is about retraining how your brain interprets connection. Here are 4 psychological principles that help shift that process. 1. Separate intensity from compatibility. The brain often confuses emotional intensity with meaningful connection, but intensity is usually just a signal of unpredictability. What to do? Start noticing moments when the relationship feels emotionally extreme, strong highs, sudden lows. Instead of interpreting that as passion, label it mentally as instability. Why this works? Cognitive psychology shows that labeling emotions activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational evaluation. This reduces the emotional dominance of the amygdala. Example, instead of thinking, "They make me feel so much," you quietly reframe it as, "This relationship produces strong emotional swings." That small shift weakens the illusion of destiny. 2. Slow down the reward loop. Remember the dopamine cycle. Your brain expects the next moment of attention, so it keeps checking for it. What to do? Introduce intentional delay before responding to messages or reaching out, not as a game, but as a nervous system reset. Why it works? Delaying interaction weakens the reward prediction cycle. Over time, the dopamine spikes become less intense. Example, if you normally respond immediately, try waiting 30 minutes, then an hour. Your brain slowly stops associating the person with instant reward. 3. Expand your emotional environment. When one person occupies most of your emotional attention, the brain amplifies their importance. This is called attentional narrowing. What to do? Deliberately build emotional variety in your life. Conversations with friends, creative activities, physical movement. Why it works? Neuroscience shows the brain recalibrates attachment intensity when multiple sources of emotional reward exist. Example, instead of spending the evening replaying their messages, you go for a walk while listening to music. It sounds simple, but the brain interprets that as a shift in emotional resource distribution. 4. Notice familiarity triggers. Sometimes the strongest pull is not the person, it is the emotional pattern they activate. What to do? Ask yourself a quiet question. What does this dynamic remind me of? Why it works? Reflection activates autobiographical memory systems in the hippocampus, allowing you to see patterns across time. Example, you might realize the feeling resembles earlier experiences of trying to earn someone's attention, and once you see the pattern, it becomes harder for the brain to pretend it is new. When you step back, the whole pattern becomes clearer. Your brain is not obsessed with a person. It is responding to 3 forces at once: familiarity, unpredictability, anticipation. Familiarity makes the connection feel meaningful. Unpredictability keeps the emotional intensity high, and anticipation fuels the dopamine loop. Together, they create the feeling that you cannot let go. But here is the quiet truth. The brain can learn new patterns, not through force, but through repeated new experiences of stable connection. Think of it like updating an emotional map. Each time you choose calm over chaos, each time you notice the pattern instead of chasing it, your brain redraws the map slightly. Slowly, the familiar starts to change. One day you may look back at this person and feel something unexpected. Not anger, not longing, just clarity. Because you will see that what once felt like destiny was actually your brain following an old emotional script. And scripts can be rewritten, not all at once, but line by line, choice by choice. And the moment you begin noticing the pattern instead of blindly repeating it, your brain is already learning something new, something quieter, something steadier. And that might be the first real step toward choosing differently.